Boom. Welcome. E3 members are excited. You can see the awesome lineup we have sitting right here. This is the part I'm really excited about E3 Aviation is the community. And these people on the screen make me excited about aviation because everyone has a little bit different story, a different background, a different specialty, and they're all really fascinating to me. And I think you'll like hearing from each and every one. And we got a lot more in store, but we want to be cognizant of everyone's time and kick this puppy off. So we're going to go around the room, and I'm going to ask everyone just to kind of give a snippet of who they are and how they fit in the aviation community. And Bradley, I think I'm going to kick it over to you first. So the talking stick is over to your corner. If you just give everyone a little bit of intro.
Sure, appreciate it. Well, mine will be easy because I'm probably the only one here who's not a pilot.
You make everyone look good.
I jokingly say I make pilots chauffeur me around while I take photographs. I've been shooting for about 15 years now. Started out in kind of portraits editorial, mostly focused on people. But as time went on, photography evolved. Several years ago, got hooked up with the good folks at Lewis Air Legends in San Antonio, Texas, who kind of kicked off my aviation photographic career, if you will. They have a great museum of flying aircraft. So that kind of helped me build an aviation portfolio, if you will, and just put me right in the center of the industry. And just kept networking and going to more shows and meeting more people and just picking up more opportunities. So, since then, just been freelancing for a number of years, been able to shoot everything from the past, present, and future of aviation. So it's been fun. Lots of good memories and good views for sure. So.
Yeah, phenomenal work. If you haven't seen Bradley's work, you have to check it out. We'll have some of that on the platform and links to that. Because, again, it's incredible. Quick question. Lewis Air Museum, do they have Glacier Girl?
They do, yeah.
Okay, so I'm sure that, for me, it's P-38. No kidding. Recovered from a glacier. Quite an amazing story. Humbling for me, I got to fly on its wing at Sun and Fun, which E3 will be the title sponsors at Sun and Fun this year, which I'm excited. So all this stuff kind of coming together, which is really cool for me. Cool. So thanks for that. Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you, or Bananas, with lots of A's and lots of N's in there. You might have seen him on Instagram with his cup. Some amazing work there. So can you give us a little snippet of who you are?
Yeah, I'm Joe. I'm father of 4, happily married, live in New Jersey, not by choice. I got the flying bug pretty similar to everybody else. You know, you're a little kid, you see an airplane fly overhead and then just kind of go to the airport, local airport, poke around. I got a job setting up the banners in the field. For every hour I'd work in the field, I'd get, half an hour towards flight training. And from there, it just kind of, 30 years later, I guess you could say I've been involved in aviation. So when I started out, all I could think about was being an airline pilot and doing that. And then I finally got to that point. And then all I could think about is all of the other aspects of aviation. Some days I wake up and I want to be like Bradley, just taking videos and pictures of airplanes, or I want to be like you, Rain, go fly some F-16s, or Mindy, go sell airplanes. So my interest with aviation is constantly evolving. And that's what's pretty awesome about social media is you actually get to meet all these people from different backgrounds and kind of talk with them about what they do. So it's been kind of a wild ride. So it's been cool.
Yeah, seeing your work is pretty impressive. It's always amazing.
Thanks.
You've made New Jersey look amazing to me. I have some stereotypes about New Jersey.
Right? I know. People are shocked, but I'm like, oh, that airport's in New Jersey. They crack the jokes, but it's pretty cool.
I alluded to in the beginning, you just hit on it again. I think just the variety that's available in aviation, there's something for everyone, I think. Whether it be you want to turn wrenches on planes or you want to fly fast jets, slow jets, jump out of them, aviation has it. We don't have on this call Mel Williams, who's another one who brings like an interesting perspective, a Delta mechanic or a mechanic. We probably can chop Delta out of there, but he, has like earned his wings and now going to go jump in the cockpit of big old fat planes flying around. But a really cool story. Again, there's just something for everyone in this world. With that, kick it over to Mindy. If you're ready to just tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm ready. I started flying in college. I did not get the bug when I was little. No one in my family is in aviation, but I was really interested in the medical field and started reading about the military brain because going to med school is really expensive. I was like, how can I get out of that big bill? So I looked at military options and was reading about how different doctors take care of the pilots and there's different medicines and just went down a rabbit hole until I was like, man, it'd be really cool if I got to be a doctor and fly on the airplanes. And then it just hit me one day, like, I should just fly the airplane. So I went to my neighbor who was an airline pilot, and I'm from Orlando, Florida. That's where I live now. He's like, you should check out this school, Embry-Riddle. And I had already done 2 years of college, about to enter my third year of pre-med. And I went and toured Embry-Riddle and absolutely fell in love with it. I went on a discovery flight. I was like, this is it. This is for me. So I learned to fly midway through college and then fell into aircraft sales. That's what I do now, which allows me the opportunity to fly a lot of different types of airplanes with a lot of different types of people and backgrounds. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. It's been a blast.
No, it's awesome. And it's cool to hear just like a discovery flight. I never had a discovery flight. I didn't know those were a thing, but the fact that people are willing to go out there and share aviation with, the next generation is really cool. And obviously it has a big impact. So very cool. I'm going to jump over to Brian next. And Brian, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. Brian Johnson here. And I guess I started flying is a really interesting story. I had the bug since I was a little kid, no doubt. And one day I came to my wife and I said, I'm thinking of getting my pilot's license. And she said, okay, well, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, oh, I got 9 months to get it done. So that's literally how I got flying. Was our second daughter I got 9 months. So I went through private, multi, instrument, type ratings and everything all in 9 months. So I got really forced into it, but, and that's years and years ago, but E3 is probably one of my most favorite ventures by far. One, because I am so passionate about aviation, but this is like a dream for me. I just got to tell you guys to be able to be doing the kind of stuff we're doing with people like you guys. I mean, we spent a weekend with Mindy and Slick and Rain, and it's just, I had to keep pinching myself. Like, I can't believe we're actually doing this. We're having fun doing something that we really love. And at the end of the day, it is going to make a difference in other people's lives. And I think it's just something I'm so passionate about. And I'm so proud to be able to do this with folks like you guys. So looking forward to a whole lot more. I know we got some stuff coming up. We're doing a master class with Bradley. I mean, we got all kinds of things going to be happening. And also we're helping these kids, the future generations. You guys just talked about discovery flights and stuff. I mean, that's more and more the kind of stuff we want to do, is to be able to introduce aviation to, the future generation out there. So I'm just grateful that I'm here and being able to do the stuff like I am right now at this minute with you guys. So thank you all, and looking forward to more.
Awesome. And last but definitely least, my buddy Feed, former F-18 driver, so I got to give him some grief with that. Former Navy Blue Angel. But Feed, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, Rain, awesome to be here, guys. Brian, I'll echo your words that this is a special privilege for me, and probably for all of us. We all probably all feel the same way there. But to be a part of this organization and get to do what we do, because aviation is very unique in the sense that we have so many different backgrounds that all come together for one common goal, which is aviation, which is the inspiration of what aviation is and where that comes from. Mine started back when I was young as a teenager. I don't have the general track that some people follow when they go into the aviation industry. I started right out of high school as an enlisted guy, and I worked on airplanes for just under 8 years in the Navy, working on F-14s, E-2s, Prowlers, S-3s, and Helos. And then I always had that bug in the back of my head that said, man, I don't know who these guys and girls are, but I really want to do it. And I just kept pushing the button until somebody said, this is how you do this. Because the ultimate goal was to be just like all you guys, be a pilot and get to fly. And so I did my degree after work, got a 4-year degree in about 20 months from a no-name school. That doesn't really matter because it's where it got me, which is here, which is exactly what the goal that I wanted to do. Ended up flying Super Hornets, East Coast, West Coast, deployed numerous times with the ultimate goal of hopefully getting to want to become a Blue Angel, and didn't make it my first time, but made it my second time. Got to share the air show industry and fly on this wonderful man's wing. As I like to say, every once in a while we learn from each other, make fun of each other. But man, it's awesome. And so once again, now to be here flying FedEx, flying the MD-11 internationally, and also getting to share in the E3 dream of what we have here is just, it's something that's truly special.
So Feed and I just did a podcast, which you'll have to go check out. We've been meaning to do it for quite a while, but E3 members get that first and foremost. I will rag on Feed just a little bit more here because we do talk about one of the most epic engine failures that I've ever seen on video, where he smacked a bird doing about 500 knots. Just an epic flame about 50 feet coming out of the back of his jet. I think Feed is meant to fly multi-engine aircraft because he's been single engine way too many times. So if he was flying the Viper, it just would not work out well for him. I think, and a true story or not, MD-11, so 3 engines, for those not familiar, one of your first flights, you guys had to shut down a motor. Is that true?
That is true.
So it's you.
Yep.
So don't fly anything less than 2 engines, Feed.
I definitely think the black cloud follows feedback. So.
Yeah, 100%. That's not normal. That's not normal. We can go around the room and ask. But Bradley, I know you're going to have to jump out of here soon, but one of the things I'm excited about, we do have a master class coming up with you on the Photographer E3 members. So people are going to be really excited to get to see that and just learn from you. And that's what I want to pivot to here. Is there something what's the one thing, or is there something you wish you had known prior to kind of getting started in the aviation field?
I guess besides, motion sickness and looking through a viewfinder, that's, trying to deal with that is a bugger. Obviously most of the time it's fine, but, just sometimes heavy wind, facing the wrong way, looking through a viewfinder long enough, it'll do it to anybody. But that's one. But I think that's something that you kind of overcome and get more of an iron stomach, if you will, over time. I'm just not having a fear of heights, I guess, too. For some people, doors are off. There's nothing between you and the other aircraft. So being okay with that, which is, it's kind of ironic because as a kid, I was terribly afraid of heights and roller coasters and anything like that. So flash forward, it's kind of funny to be doing what I'm doing and just being strapped in and feet dangling out of an aircraft and doing that. So I think those two things, at least off the top of my head. Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least you're not jumping out of a plane. To me, that's just insanity, So
yeah, I always say, when people see, behind the scene photos and things like that, they're like, "Oh, I would never do that." I'm like, "Well, I'm not jumping out of it. I'm strapped in. I'm not going anywhere. I don't plan to." So I was like, to me, that's the crazy stuff. And most of the time when I can, I'm doubly strapped in. I was like, if I can strap in from 2 points, please do. So I've got a wife and 2 beautiful girls at home to come back to. So I'm not trying to slip out of there.
Well, referencing my previous conversation about Feed, multiple redundant systems is probably a good thing. So,
where in my situation, it'd be my wife grabbing me by the hand and jumping out of the window because she's a competition parachutist. So she's comfortable in a chute.
I'd honestly like to do that as part of my own, training is to be getting comfortable with that and wearing. I'd like to implement a parachute while I'm up there, just as a third, fallback. So we'll see. I don't know, and it looks fun, but.
I guess I'm willing to bet, Bradley, you probably have shot Feed, I would imagine. Is that true? You guys know?
Maybe.
Not that I'm aware of, but it's possible. And if not, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, you want to be in the other plane from Feed.
Yeah, don't be near me.
I think we've established
birds will fly Feed.
Before you jump off, I know you have to go here. Along that line, what did it take to kind of learn? Is it just going out there doing multiple reps, learning like, hey, this setting doesn't work. We need to do it this time for this light or, position plane. Was that just reps or did you have any guidance to kind of help you along the way or was it just figuring it out yourself?
No, I think it was thankfully leading up, having at least, 10 years of solid photography behind me to just understand the specific scenario that I'm in with a certain light. Obviously, dealing with propeller-driven aircraft, having to deal with trying to get nice prop blur, but not have the image become blurry as well. So that's always a challenge. And yeah, just the constant changing of light, changing of angles. Unlike being in a studio with somebody or a car or something like that, I can walk around and easily position, tell someone to move this way, that way to get the proper light on them. But, with photographing an aircraft, you have to make a lot of adjustments, tell everyone that about what you want to do. And it's not a quick adjustment. You got to fly over here. We got to turn this way, slight adjustments after that. So I think it was helpful to just have that base of photography and understanding, proper shutter speeds for certain environments and things like that. But sure, I've definitely shot some bad images.
Yeah.
Those will never see the light of day, but it happens. But it's just there's definitely things that I learned along the way that help capture those images, things to look out for, implemented newer equipment in to help dampen handshake, turbulence, things like that to get those slower shutter speeds. But yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell. Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but I can imagine getting a prop blur without getting a blurry photo. It's probably a challenge.
Takes a couple takes.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, smooth air helps. A good pilot helps. All that stuff, but and good equipment and the proper equipment all help. So,
no big deal. Just all of it.
All of it.
Be
all
a
at
champion.
once.
Yeah, all at once. Be perfect. Well, Bradley, I appreciate you joining and jumping in here a little bit. Again, excited to see your masterclass come together. I know people who have a bug for aviation photography or just photography in general will glean a lot from it and get excited about it. So thanks for jumping in, and you're welcome to hang out more. But again, I know you're busy and you got things to jump and go do.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Really excited for the masterclass. Been looking to do that for a while, so I'm excited to partner with you guys on it and hopefully bring some insight and some excitement to people who are into photography, who are into aviation, and a mixture of the both. So, looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Bradley.
Yeah, Bradley,
Yeah.
I got to say, we got E3 firearms too, so it gets really uncomfortable when you guys are talking and say, well, I shot this guy, I
Right.
shot that guy. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, we
use a different word.
We can dub in a different word over all those times. Yeah, and I got to get in a better habit because it's slang in the photography world, and saying that it's like, oh, I'm gonna go shoot this person, and you're like, well, maybe photograph. Maybe that's better.
That gets us demonetized on YouTube, just so you know. On firearms.
We'll start over. We'll just stop record and start over.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right, guys. But thanks for having me on today, and look forward to more.
Awesome. See you later.
See you guys.
See you, Bradley.
All right. Now we can talk bad about him. So perfect. Mindy, what's the one thing? Is there one thing that you wish you had known prior to getting into aviation? You think it'd help you out?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I come from a non-aviation background, so starting at Embry-Riddle and getting my private was really difficult to know what was what. So I wish I knew earlier how important it was to have like a mentor in the industry, which I did get one when I was in my instrument training. And I know it's kind of hard to seek out a mentor. It usually just happens naturally. I wish I had met this person I'm talking about earlier, because once I had someone that has been through all of it and was willing to like help me through it, things got so much easier for me. So I'd say that's what I wish I had earlier.
Yeah, 100%. Mentors definitely make it a lot easier. It's not always the easiest thing to find a mentor, and you're not going to find the right one right away. But I think showing up.
Like my instructor was great, a great person too, but just didn't fit that mentor role, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You might get lucky right off the bat, but it probably is going to take a few swings and showing up and putting forth the effort to try to make those connections that hopefully you find someone you mesh with. But 100%, I think we probably can all attest to having a mentor, whether it be aviation or business, et cetera, like to guide you through the path and not have to go stumble along and figure it out on your own. It's huge. So definitely. I will mention it was awesome flying the extra with Mindy. So Mindy and I were both like fish out of water, completely like she's got a lot of tail wheel time. I got more aerobatic time, but it was really cool getting checked out in the extra with Mindy. We have a whole segment on that, so you have to check that out. But that was a wild time. And again, it was a lot of learning going on. I know for me, I'm sure there was some learning going on for you as well, but we made it and that was a really cool experience.
I can't wait to see the videos. I haven't seen them yet, but I can't wait for them to be.
I saw some of the footage. Wait till you see
Did
it.
you see me
It's so
screaming?
good.
I was like, oh, I did it!
It makes me want to go flying.
You're like a rock star.
Videos. It's awesome.
That's
Feed-
amazing.
Feed, do you have your tail wheel endorsement?
I do.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it was like, whoa, these are rudder pedals, so that's a new thing. We haven't seen these in a while. Figuring out what that is all again. So
You caught on very quickly, Rain, for someone who doesn't have a lot of tail wheel time. Like very, very quickly.
every now and then, a blind squirrel finds a nut. So but
Well, you picked up the extra pretty quick, huh?
yeah, that was fun. I'll be honest. I would say you guys more tail wheel time, obviously much more tail wheel time than me. Be curious to hear like your perspective because Mindy, you did mention it. Like it was pretty gusty on the second day we went flying, but I really didn't notice the extra. Like you obviously had to control it a little bit, but even flying like the 777, you have to have more crosswind control in with 15 knots of direct cross. I mean, you're managing it coming down the chute and then in the flare and landing it. It can land in a crab, but you're derotating, not to get into too far in the weeds. But the extra I felt was a lot easier, honestly, which is crazy.
I think so too. It handled it really, really well. I think the last day it was like low 20s gusting high 20s knots. So it was like gusting 28 knots or something, which in a tail wheel is usually the days I don't want to go fly.
That's legit.
Yes, the plane that I owned that I got most of my tail wheel time in was a Cub Crafter, a Sport Cub, which was super light, and I would have never flown on a day like that. So we were coming in and listened to the ATIS. I was like, who? And I told Chad, who was our instructor, like, you're going to have to be on this with me. I don't really know about this. I don't want to do it. But it was fine. I couldn't believe it. It handled it perfectly. I mean, it was like it was nothing.
The statement "ignorance is bliss" was definitely applicable to me. I'm like, yeah, this is not so bad. 20 knots, whatever. You're gonna do this all day long.
He didn't listen to the ATIS. He just blasted it.
What is ATIS? I check in with the numbers. It's gonna be fine. So, Feed. What about you, man? What's the one thing you wish you had known?
And I was actually thinking about that when you asked Mindy that question. Is I wish I would have known when I first started this, because depending on when you get into aviation, you may have some confidence about your abilities. And I wish I would have known that no matter how good you thought you were, you're nowhere near as good as you thought you actually are, which is it's humbling. No matter what you fly, no matter what your background is, when you come into something and you look at it saying that I think I've got this figured out, and then either your mentor or Mindy, like you're saying, or your instructor, or in a class that you thought you understood, and you go through that and you fail that course, or you have an instructor that said today was not your best day. That is humbling experience. And I wish I would have known that through repetition and through experience and through just gaining time after time after time of doing that, eventually you start to get confident in that new trade that you're doing, which is flying. And it's crazy going through flight school. You think about that. You're saying, man, I think I got this figured out. And then you have a crappy flight. And you look back and you go, maybe I actually don't know. You know, like the first time, Mindy, when you said, I don't want to fly right now, that's the first thing I thought when I rolled behind the back of the boat for the first time. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm like, okay, all right, somebody. And then you turn around and there's nobody behind you. You're like, oh, it's got to be me. I have to fly this plane. I don't want to do that right now. But yeah, the confidence was a huge thing, and actually learning that you are not as good as you thought you were is huge. You know, saying that, hey, just like the mentor, somebody that can say, you don't know it all. It's going to take you some time. Penny a day, and eventually the piggy bank's going to be full. Just keep putting in effort, keep putting in effort, keep putting in effort. Listen to those mentors, listen to the people that have been there. Because even though some of the aspects of aviation have changed, it's all still the same. For as long as aviation has been around, weather will kill you, you know, the ground will kill you. And if you don't know your airplane, it'll do bad things pretty quickly if you're not up to speed on what you're flying.
Yeah, there's so much we could go down that rabbit hole. Again, I'll allude back to the podcast we did with you, Feed, because you did mention landing on a boat, which is silly, in my humble opinion. There's no plan B when you got to land on the boat and you're out in the middle of nowhere. But it's the simple stuff that usually kills people. I can think of all of my buddies who have died, with the exception of one, was all in like the admin phase of flight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the fighter pilot world, like shooting ILSs, the getting to and from point A to point B, like you don't even talk about that in the brief. Like it's just expected. That's putting your pants on to go to work. It's all the tactics that are happening on that day. That's where you spend your time. But where people end up smacking jets into one another, or where they run a jet inside of a mountain or crash, it's the to and from the airspace. It's shooting the ILS. It's the basic stuff. I'm sure we all have stories of that kind of stuff. So I always, anytime I get comfortable, that's when I slap myself like, nope, like you're not as good as you think you are. That's especially true at night. If you're flying at night and you feel comfortable at night, just go ahead and slap yourself, because you shouldn't be comfortable flying at night.
Just land the airplane.
Yeah, so it's over. That's what I've learned in my short period of time. Joe, how about you, man?
Two things, and one you guys just mentioned is, I wish I learned early on that the more comfortable you get with something, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're better at it, and that's when you're going to make the mistakes and potentially hurt yourself or hurt someone else. And the other thing is, I wish I would have known starting out how small of a community aviation is, and how to, I guess, network properly, because I'm running into guys, years later at airport terminals or hotels that I vaguely remember meeting such a long time ago. And I think it's important to build bridges and not burn them when it comes to aviation, because the guy next to you that's pulling your gear could very well, you'll be the guy pulling his gear 10 years down the road. So I think it's important to make sure that you're, nice to everybody. And if somebody reaches out and has less experience, do whatever you can to kind of help guide them. And like Mindy was saying, be their mentor. Just kind of pay it forward, because it is a really, really small community, and you'll never know when you'll need help from someone that you've given help to. So I think that's important. And it took me a while to learn that, but I wish I had learned that early on in my aviation journey. But again, I was 14, 15-year-old kid, so I didn't really think like that. So looking back now, I should have, but that's, you kind of just live and learn, and that's what happens.
Joe, I think that is so true. It's funny. I was like 2 days ago, I was just talking to a guy about that. I hadn't seen this guy for 20 years, like right when we're like leaving ROTC, and I bump into him in Paris. We're flying for FedEx, and it's just crazy how small the world it is. And then I was a first assignment instructor pilot out of pilot training. So I graduated and I stayed back. So I'm a young dude teaching a bunch of young dudes and dudettes how to fly. Then fast forward, you're thrown into a fighter squadron. Well, a lot of those now are flight leads or instructor pilots. So they're teaching you. And then, as you just kind of keep moving along your career, it's like, oh, this buddy now, he's a captain. I haven't seen him in 15 years. Or hopefully I gave that guy a check ride. I have on the bro chat we do on the Afterburn podcast, it's not known, but Vader is this other co-host. I did his first check ride in the Air Force. And it was an interesting check ride, but it's like you hope that it doesn't come back 15 years from now and like bite you. So just treat people well and be a good person. And it is a small community. So
Rain, I've got a great story to tag along with that, Joe. You hit it on the head. That when I was enlisted, it's a long process to become an officer, through paperwork, through interviews. You have to get your college degree on your own or go to a different school to grab your degree. In my particular situation, I got my degree and then had to get the interview process to see if other officers thought that I would be an officer-like candidate to join their ranks. So I went down to San Diego and sat down with my big senior boss, who was a captain in 06 in the Navy, put me through the ringer, asked me a ton of very difficult questions, and gave me very good remarks. Submitted my package, ended up becoming an officer. 15 years later, right over my head, I'm having a conversation with him while I'm a Blue Angel. And we're sitting next to the cars, we're chatting back and forth. And I was like, sir, I didn't catch your name. What was your name? And he told me his name, and Joe, nailed it, because I immediately started having tears run down my face. And I said, were you in 06 in San Diego? He goes, yeah, why? I said, you're not going to believe this, but you bottom lined my officer application to become an officer. And he was a prior maintenance officer of the Blue Angels back in the 1980s. And he started freaking out, and he grabbed his wife, and the kids come over. He's like, I made something of myself. Look.
Oh, that's awesome. That's cool.
But it's so true, because aviation's such a small industry that everybody takes care of everybody. And it's so special. Spot on, Joe.
I love it. And again, that's why I get really excited about E3, because I think the piece that makes it really powerful, we have a lot of great, awesome things happening, but it's the people who are getting involved and taking part of this that it makes the aviation community what's great is the people, and that's what we're trying to do here. So last on this round would be Brian. What's the one thing you wish you had known?
It's funny you just said it. I was just thinking, well, it's two things. One is I wish I'd known how much money I was going to waste owning airplanes. That's number one.
Bad word.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Mindy.
It was worth every dollar, I will say that. But you just said it when you just talked about A3, and I was just like, I wish I'd known what I know today. And I think when I was, just getting into aviation, I didn't realize then how much there really is that you can learn, and how much you can really expand your horizons in this world. And I only wish there was an E3 back then where somebody like you guys were there, where I could learn more and more. But back then there wasn't anything like that. I mean, just the time I spent with Mindy and the stuff I learned from her. We just did a great call with her husband, Kevin, last night. And there was a whole bunch of stuff I learned from this guy. He's ATC. He was awesome. So, if I could have had that back then, or just the time I spent with you guys, I'm still learning. And I just wish I knew back then what I know today. And then I still would have had a ton to learn. So it's there's just so much out there. And I'm hoping that we can really share more of this stuff and use our experiences to go back to my 20-year-old I was and be able to share that. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, that's huge. And again, it's a different world now where, email, just started existing when, I was going through school. The internet, all these things have have shrunk the world. Social media being a big aspect of that. But being able to bring all this together in one spot, be able to lean and learn from people who've walked the path, I think is huge. It can be a huge time saver and save people from pitfalls. So it's cool to see that.
But you know what else, Rain? That I think it's also a problem. I mean, it's a hurdle. You look at the technology and the social media, everything out there today. It's really great that we can use these platforms and mediums to be able to help people. But at the same time, I've seen it over and over where then you have stuff that's irresponsible, stuff that shouldn't be out there that people are watching and things. And, that's why E3 Firearms started. There was nothing back then. We were seeing people being told, my daughters were being taught from YouTube on how to do some stuff that was just absolutely dangerous and wrong. So there's the double-edged sword. And I think it's great that we're able to have, vetted people like you guys on here that we can try to fill that gap and,
Absolutely. The vetted piece and having experts that you can trust or know that they're going to tell you straight is huge. It's not someone just trying to get more clicks or more views, I think is huge. All right. Along those same lines, it's going to be the most memorable moment in aviation aircraft. That might be a tough one. I don't know. You guys, it might become super easy. I'm going to kick it to Feed because I feel like Feed's probably got just a bank of great stories that are absolutely terrifying to the rest of us, and then probably some that are really inspiring, just knowing his background. So, Feed, you can pick your top three, whatever you want to do there.
All right. As any naval aviator would say, the first time they put their wings on their chest, that's a special moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have an instructor in my backseat anymore. This is me. United States government says I'm qualified to fly this airplane. I'm going to go back in the corner, freak out, and then come back around the corner and act important. As of course, when you put on your wings as well as all you guys, first time you took your solo flight, it's definitely, you hear things, in the airplane the first time you go fly. But a very, very special moment for me was the first time I touched down on an aircraft carrier in the middle of the ocean. I will never, ever forget that feeling that I found a piece of steel in the middle of that big blue pond, and I didn't run into the back of it. I remember I was the only person in the airplane, and I had a experience. I had like an out-of-body experience because the first time you ever fly aboard the ship, your hook is up because they want to make sure that you're not going to run into the back of the boat. Just show me that you can do a touch and go first. And then if you do that a couple of times, then we'll allow you to put your hook down. And so I remember the first time I touched down, I totally forgot to bring the power up because I'm like, oh, I'll have to go around. But I remember that feeling as a student and as somebody. I remember sitting on the bed in the hotel room in Jacksonville by myself thinking, like, am I really about to go do this? And is this where my chapter closes? Is this where they find out I'm not supposed to be a pilot? Like, and I always have had that thought going through my head. That was a very special moment for me. And then the third moment was in 2018 when we surprised Oshkosh. The Blue Angels flew over, and we tried to keep it a secret as much as possible through the planning team and Dennis Dunbar, Wayne Boggs, and everybody else that took all the powers that be through the FAA and everybody that we planned to launch from Pensacola, grab a tanker, use a different call sign, and fly up to Oshkosh and surprise everybody up there. I remember looking down and actually got emotional in the airplane saying that we pulled it off. Holy cow. I can't believe it. This was a special moment. And then flying back to Fargo was an awesome experience. Very cool to be a part of it.
That's so
cool. You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Of course I do.
Rain was a little mad at me because he goes, hey, man, you could have given me a heads up.
Nothing. I could have had my camera out. Could have had my camera, but no, nothing. I'm surprised we're still friends after that one. That was really cool. And it's a big moment, obviously, for Oshkosh. People don't realize, like, the reason the Blues and the Thunderbirds are never there is the aerobatic box is not large enough. They can't facilitate it based on some people who won't vacate properties during the air show, which is required by the FAA. So the Blues and the Thunderbirds don't go there. So it was a really special moment to see the Blues show up. And everyone's following you guys on scanners and stuff like that. So the fact that you're able to keep it a secret and show up at Home of the Brave with the national anthem was pretty inspiring. So very cool for sure.
Yeah.
Boom.
It took a lot of hands to make that happen, and that was a special moment.
Yeah, you did name drop Dennis.
Even Rob Ryder.
Yeah.
Even Rob Ryder, who was singing the national anthem, he goes, oh my gosh. Even he didn't know, and he knows just about everything.
Yeah, and he's always in the know. You did mention Dennis Dunbar, who we're working with a good bit because he is running the air show side of things at Sun and Fun this year. And again, it's exciting to be the title sponsor, and then just to see what Dennis has in the works and how Sun and Fun is kind of pivoting to a different model. I think you're going to see things change in the next few years, but it's exciting to see what Sun and Fun has in the works. And then tying that too, again, into ACE, the Aerospace Center for Excellence there at Lakeland, the campus, getting involved more and more with the youth. And that's a big part of E3, being able to give back and be able to promote and help kids get involved in aviation and on their path. So it's all just good stuff, and it's all interwoven, which, again, I love that stuff. Joe, I'm going to kick it over to you for most memorable moment, in parentheses, also moments.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm supposed to come anywhere close to, feet landing on an aircraft carrier. But for me,
it's insanity, so don't feel too bad.
Yeah. The first thing was probably when my first flight as an airline captain. It was, I remember getting the phone call from scheduling, hey, we got a trip for you. Great. And walking down the jetway in a 321 with a whole bunch of MELs and just horrible weather, and just thinking, this is it. I'm pretty much on my own. And I hope I don't screw up too badly. And it worked out fine. I think it was to Fort Myers, and everything worked out fine. But I remember the feeling I had walking down the jetway. But, in aviation and in life, if you're not doing something that scares you, you're never really going to grow as a person. So that's one of those things that's, helped me become a better pilot by just kind of facing the challenge. And the other most memorable moment was, I hope I don't get emotional here, but taking my dad for a ride in the Cub when I first bought the Cub. My father absolutely hates to fly, but he was excited for me, and he sacrificed his fear to come flying with me. And I remember just taking him up in the Cub and just thinking, all this has come full circle, because without my dad sacrificing when I was younger, there was just no way I'd be able to learn how to fly and kind of become the person and father that I am. So to take him up in the airplane that, I wouldn't know how to fly without him was really, it was incredible, and I'll never forget that. So those two things will stay with me forever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that beats landing on a
That's
boat
special.
for sure.
Yep, it sure does.
The airline captain piece of it, I can only imagine what that's like now, sitting in the right seat, in the FO seat. Yeah, it's like when you start, and Feed can speak to it more, like the 777 doesn't have a lot of MELs. It's pretty, the mid equipment list is pretty rare. It's a rare thing for something to break on the triple, and then you carry that broken item to the next station. The MD-11, on the other hand, Feed, I think that thing is covered in orange stickers, and you're having to do all sorts of like charts and figuring out what's legal, what's not, what's available, what can you do. That's some stress right there.
Yep. Yeah, that's a working man's airplane, so I fully understand that. It's got its own briefcase of MELs that you walk on the airplane. All right. What do we got going on today?
I have very soft hands. I don't I can't do that stuff. Mindy, how about you? What's the most memorable moment with aviation?
My most memorable moment came a few years after I had been selling planes, most of which were to people that was their very first airplane. Because I sold small like piston engine stuff for a while, and just seeing like, wow, like these people, like their dreams come true when we get to make this happen. I can't wait till that happens for me. So my most memorable moment is when I got to buy my first airplane, which was a tailwheel plane. I mentioned it earlier. It was a Sport Cub. And at the time, me and my husband had bought a hangar home on a grass strip, which that was also a pinch me moment. So then I go to pick up this plane, which the ink is still wet from my tailwheel endorsement. I had just gotten my tailwheel from a neighbor of mine at my grass strip in his J3 Cub. So I go to pick up this plane that we had saved for so long for and looked forward to, and just like taking off in the plane by myself for the first time, because I needed an hour of solo before I could take my husband. So that my solo flight was bringing it home to like check that box. Just landing at our grass strip in our backyard. My husband's on the ramp waving me in. It's the first plane we ever, my first tailwheel solo ever, my first plane ever. I'm taxiing in crying, just like can't hold it together. That was the most special moment to achieve all those goals kind of at once. And then many special moments after. I think I took like 40 or 50 people flying in that plane. Most of which were friends and family that have never gotten to go with me. All my flying has been through work, which you can't really bring friends and family at work. So had so many people come visit us and go on their very first small aircraft flight. And just to be able to share that with so many people has been the best.
Yeah, that's so cool. And the fact it's really cool seeing you and Kevin fly around. Also, it's pretty impressive that you guys are still married, because I think if I was going to teach Anna to fly,
We just talked about that last night.
yeah, it would last about 30 seconds. And if like I actually know more than you here, you have to listen to me, but like it wouldn't fly. So that's
Well, we know Kevin's always right, Mindy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is Kevin done with his private pilot's license?
Yeah, he got his private pilot license about 2 years ago. Me and another girlfriend of mine taught him how to fly. And then ever since then, I've been teaching him all his like currency and just all his progressive stuff. I think eventually I'll teach him his instrument, which he knows most of it so far. But yeah, it's like walking on eggshells the whole flight. It's hard. We've had to cut before. One of which was on video, which will never be released.
That's awesome. Well, I guess the other aspect with him, with his background being air traffic controller, he knows, like I couldn't understand, like when I was learning instruments in the Air Force, they're teaching what an ILS is. And this is like when you're just learning aerobatics, basically. And you're like, I don't know what this is, but the fact that he understands how the National Airspace System works, how someone gets vectored onto approach. Now it's just figuring out the other side of it. Like he can, I imagine he might snap back and you'd have to like knock him in line there.
His frequency is great. His situational awareness is awesome. Like all that was just from the very first flight of training. He had that. And I feel like that's the hardest part for people to learn. So for a controller to become a pilot is literally just learning how to land the airplane is kind of what we figured out. He knows airspace and all the regulations. Like it's all built into his job.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, probably he knows it better than the rest of us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, Brian, what about you?
We did an awesome call with him last night. I think people are going to love to hear from him more. Rain, and Mindy, thanks for that. I mean, he just comes across really good. I mean, he's confident in what he does and stuff, and I think people are going to really enjoy hearing some of those inside secrets of, you know, what they go through. And it was really good learning stuff. I learned a whole bunch of stuff from him last night, and it's going to be awesome to get him on some more stuff. Yeah, for me, Rain, it's the same as Mindy. I mean, that first time that you buy your first aircraft and you come home with it, like who cannot remember that? That's just awesome. I think the second one was buying the first jet. That was like the next one. Then the third one is understanding how much that was going to cost over the years. But it's worth it for sure. But to me, it's every time I hit that start button, I mean, that just always jacks me up. There's just nothing like it, obviously. Yeah.
Yep.
I love it. Well, I think we're going to wrap up with this round unless anyone has anything else, which the last thing is going to be the biggest challenge you have faced thus far in your aviation career. And maybe it's an easy question, maybe it's not, but you know, Joe, I feel like it's just primed and ready for you.
Yeah, you know, this is kind of it's not a tangible thing, so it's difficult, but I think the most challenging thing about aviation is, and this is more towards the airline, maybe not, maybe because the state of my airport possibly closing, but just not having control over certain things. My airline is getting, we're not getting merged, we're getting acquired by JetBlue. So bases closed, you know, seniority-less integration, a new joint contract. This is stuff, and you know, we're pilots, right? So we're very type A, and for me not to have any control whatsoever is a big challenge, and that goes for, I guess, a lot of things in life. But again, like the airport closing, you know, I have no say in that happening. What do I do with my airplane? You know, the friends that I've made. So that's kind of tough. I think it's just, you know, like I said, as a pilot, very type A, and when you don't have control, it's, you know, it's tough. So I would say that's, for me, that's the biggest challenge in aviation, is you can only control certain things, and you have to learn to just kind of roll with the punches, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. I have not thought about it in that aspect, but it is true. Like most things, it lends back to what Feed said, I think, originally, with learning from mistakes or kind of being humbled a little bit, usually as a type A person or someone who always wants to excel. Maybe you might be an introvert, but you always want to do really well. When you find yourself in the aviation world, there are going to be hurdles that, you know, it takes you a few times to jump over it. And you're going to get, you know, kicked in the shin, but not being able to control that is a challenge for sure.
Yeah, that's tough. And, you know, and with flying, you know, you have a flow chart for everything, right? If something breaks in the airplane, just go to the flow chart. You know, it's all laid out in the FOM on how they want you to fly the airplane. You know, look at the flow chart, look at the checklist, but unfortunately there's not always a checklist in life. So that's, it could be a challenge.
For sure. Mindy, what about you?
I would say the biggest challenge that I see in the industry is just taking the first step. Just getting into this world. It can seem a little bit daunting, I think, to people that aren't in it yet, or to look at people like Joe who are like in the prime of his career, or you, Rain, like it can be like, wow, that's so far away. Like, what's the point of starting, and how do I even start? So hopefully, I think, you know, E3 can bring some people together on making this easier for people to come in. I think aviation is so welcoming, but it's just difficult. Like I said, I don't come from aviation. That was hard, but the best thing I did was go to a college for it. Like that was part of my degree. Like I had to show up, and there's people there that had a lot of structure. But if I had gone to like a Part 61 flight school out the gate to get into it, I don't know if I would be where I am now, you know, if I wasn't pushed through, you know, the college way. So I just think, the barrier to entry can just seem a little bit difficult.
And I mean, it's not a super easy thing. Like there are definitely, again, it goes back to like there are hurdles. There's financial barriers. There's time barriers.
Yeah.
There's aptitude barriers. All that goes into it. But again, that's hopefully something like E3, right? That's what we're here for, bringing together people like this who have such a varied background that can lend expertise and kind of help people along that path. I think is really important, because that definitely can help out. Because again, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And I think one thing is half the battle, if this even makes sense, is 90% of it's showing up. Like you got to show up. And if you get there and show up, like usually you're going to have some forward progress. And it's not always an easy thing just to show up, but that, I think, getting out the gate and going, you'll start getting the momentum.
Mm-hmm.
Brian, how about you? What's the biggest challenge you faced?
And pretty much the same thing you guys said. I mean, it's sometimes it's frustrating that you're really wanting to get passionate about something that you're so passionate about and you can't afford to when you're young and stuff. I mean, it was hard for me. I mean, family and kids coming, and I wanted to fly more. I wanted to do more, and it was just hard financially. And I think that's kind of what you guys just said too. I think unfortunately, it's out of reach for a lot of people, especially a lot of young people. They don't even have access to be able to learn more or even see if this is like something they want to be involved in or maybe a career. So, that is definitely, I think, a struggle. I think just for me personally, Rain, just getting to the point of just even sitting here today, this was hard for us. Rain, we've been working on this for a long, long time, and how much work it is between technology and, the people and, software and, marketing and legal and trademarks. And I mean, there was so much that we had to do. It was a big, big hurdle. I mean, it's satisfying now that we've got it to this point. And to us, it's like, well, now it just starts. It's just the beginning. Yeah. But it's doing what you just said. Now it's putting something out there. And most people don't realize, but E3 is going to be free for a lot of kids. I mean, that's what we're doing. They're going to have free memberships. All the ACE students are going to have free memberships. ACE is actually going to be putting a lot of content and working with us to get that stuff out to the kids. And it's because of members. And I don't think a lot of people know that yet, but this wouldn't exist if it wasn't for all of our members, because their membership is what's helping to fund, the E3s and to get out there. And at the same time, most people probably don't know that the E3s were built on the fact that they're engines created to give back to veterans and the kids. So, every single monthly membership that all our members pay go into every single month we're writing a check to veterans and kids and stuff. And that was a lot of work. It's crazy how hard it is even to write checks to organizations, the hurdles and stuff. But I think it's satisfying that we've got to that point. And that was, I guess, to your answer, that was a really, really big struggle to get to today. No, we've got to have kids. And by the way, Joe, we always
awesome,
kids.
Joe.
We're about family. We're about family.
I got kids everywhere. Sorry.
I keep saying to Rain, we're on phone calls and conference calls. It's like going in other rooms. I'm like, brother, you got to keep the kids around. We're all about family.
Yeah. It's real. It's real.
Yeah, I had two tornado sirens going off this morning when Brian called me. It was just two of them, just right at me. So, kids, they spice it up,
Yeah.
They say they keep you young, but I think I have more gray hair now. So,
definitely.
Brian, I think that's a good point too. Before I kick it over to Fee to wrap up with his kind of challenge, or what he thought the biggest challenge was, is the kids. So, like aerospace. I love
so
it.
Awesome.
The ACE, Aerospace Centers for Excellence, as well as Guns Garen Memorial Foundation. So we have a whole segment we did with Guns Garen. Guns was an F-16 pilot at McIntyre, and he passed away, unfortunately, in 2020. A lot of squadron mates got together, and they wanted to carry on his legacy twofold. One, help veterans in need, and that goes to where, hey, it's even hard to write a check sometimes. But Guns Garen Memorial Foundation, they're able to help veterans from paying mortgages to helping with groceries. A lot of foundations, the bylaws are really restrictive, and they had some good guidance in the beginning of setting up. Some other foundations reached out to them as they were standing up saying, hey, recommend you do this with your bylaws if this is your intent. But the other pillar of Guns Garen Memorial Foundation is to help kids as well. So kind of bringing all these together. So at least as we get out the gate, I think, again, we've been working for months bringing this together. I think we got an 80% solution. We're always striving to be better, but getting this out the gate, getting it going is really important. And, one of those two pieces being able to help kids and maybe knock down that initial barrier to jumping into aviation through ACE and the Guns Garen Memorial Foundation. Those two, promoting them and helping them out, is important. I see is one way that we can get back and hopefully make it a little bit easier for some kids to get involved in aviation. But we're just getting started, so there's a lot more to come, and that's what's exciting. Feed, what's your biggest challenge or challenges you've faced with aviation? Oh, good.
What's that?
I was like, all of a sudden I had 2 feeds on my screen. It was,
Sorry, buddy.
it was a
No pun
Christmas,
intended.
it was a, yeah, right. It was a Christmas miracle. I don't think the video is going to show that, but I wish I could have had my screen just captured there. It's like there's 2 feeds. But I was asking, what's your biggest challenge you face getting involved in aviation?
Yeah, so Rain, I think you hit it on the head with all the Veterans Foundations and what this community stands for in E3 and how we support each other. Because ultimately, retiring out of the Navy as a safety officer, I got to do the bad ends of things that nobody ever wants to talk about, that you have to sit down and evaluate and talk about and find the reasons why things happened. And I think the number one thing that is a plague in all of our industry, no matter what we fly, is complacency. And being an instructor and flying and talking and teaching, training, it doesn't matter how long you've been in an airplane. It doesn't matter how new you are in an airplane. Complacency can always creep up on you. And, you know, with my wife being a pilot as well, we talk about this all the time. She's in the fighter pilot world as well, is that it's special to us because the moment you become complacent, something can happen, and then you're immediately behind the jet. So we text each other SOD, which is safe on deck. You know, whether we're both across the world, she's here, she's there, I'm wherever. You know, we've got a little one on the way, and we're super excited about it. And it's a big thing to us to be like, hey, I'm safe on deck. You know, and being a spouse, you know, Anna definitely understands this, and you guys are married, understands this as well. That, you know, with your spouse flying, you know, you being on the deck and then something's happening, I mean, your world is upended, you know, with friends that we've lost, and being complacent can really add to the Swiss cheese model with that. So approaching the airplane like it's the first time you've done it, no matter how experienced you are, will always keep you at the tip of the spear in case something goes wrong. And I've had to learn that time and time again, be like, oh, great. The other engine blew up. Okay, lightning struck. Okay, the HUD just caught on fire. All right, I just ripped the radar off the nose. What's next? You know, something always can happen, and it's special. You know, we talk about it a lot with my wife and I. That just getting that SOD text, just getting safe on deck from your spouse, takes the stress level from here down to here. You know, and especially as instructors, anybody that's been an instructor knows, teaching the younger generation to be like, it doesn't get easier. It actually gets more challenging, because now you have to fight the complacency side of it to say, no, it's fine, man. I can push the weather. No, I can push the sun going down. No, I can push this fuel. We can ride it down to here. And fighting those urges to be like, no, actually fly by the book. Actually do what you need to do the way that you were taught. So when the person behind you comes up and says, hey, you know, how do I do this? It's not who's the coolest in school. It's who can do it the right way the longest, really, is what it boils down to, as we all know. So definitely complacency.
Yep. I think that is a very fair statement. And that is one thing that complacency will show up, and it shows up especially as you start getting comfortable. We all can attest. We've all been there. We all have friends who've done something probably stupid because they were complacent. I mean, I can just think of about 10 off the top of my head that I've done. One being, you know, like, oh, I forgot to arm the ejection seat today. Like, that was suboptimal, you know, should you need to do it. But it's simple stuff like that can just,
and you know, it's special because with this community that we have here at E3, which I think is so unique, that there's so many different levels of experience here that our members can look at it and be like, man, listen to all the aviators out there that have had this, that have had that have had this. Holy cow. Maybe it happens more than I expected, or maybe it happens more often than it does, but how come I don't hear about the crashes, and how come I don't hear about this? Is because of the training and the experience that we have, especially here, that now our members can lean on each other to be like, let me reach out to that person. Let me see this, and let me talk to that mentor. It's such a special community that we're a part of.
Yeah, 100%. And maybe that's a good thing before we wrap up here to hit on again. Just one thing is, you know, Brian alluded to, you know, social media. Like, there's a lot of noise out there. Knowing what you can trust, what you can't trust, that's a tough thing to do. We make a very concerted effort, right? We want experts and we want vetted content, so you know when you're hearing this information, it's truth data, and you're not going to get led down or led astray going down whatever path you might be, because that is something that really can can put you off into a dangerous spot. And again, for us, it's really important that we put out good quality information, and having people like you sit in the room where we can share these stories, because that's how you learn in aviation is, listen to your buddies, debrief it, talk about it, learn, and then try not to make the same mistake twice. Try not to make the same mistake that Feed made or Rain made or Mindy made, and learn from others. And that's so important, bringing the community together like this, I think. Well, I think that does it for our time today. It was awesome being able to bring everyone together here tonight, just talk a little bit about your backgrounds, some of the things you've done in aviation, some of the challenges, some things we got rolling down the pipe in E3. It is exciting right off the get-go, because as we're out the gate here, I am pumped for Sun and Fun and seeing all your faces there. I hope people who are listening can come and join E3 Aviation. Join us at our chalet. We have special pricing that goes along with Sun and Fun for the VIP experience. If you haven't done an air show VIP style, you need to do it, because it's really the only way to do it. So I look forward to seeing everyone out there. In the meantime, fly safe. Again, thanks, everyone. This was a lot of fun.
See you guys.
Cheers, guys.